Hi, it's Mike here. I've just been looking at one or two videos on YouTube, and somebody responded to one I did about the winter fuel allowance, and it banged on about, as well as making a few points, it did talk about pensioners and how so many thousands of them will die this winter, and without, of course, making any reference to the fact that there aren't even any figures for the number of disabled people below the age of retirement who, because of their conditions, struggle to keep warm and may die if the winter is particularly cold. When it comes to, there are, as you all know, many pensioner groups who keep talking about more for pensioners, more benefits, more higher pensions, in fact, and to some extent they have a point, because after all, people have paid into the system all their lives, and it seems to have ceased to be the insurance it was when they all paid into it. National insurance is supposed to be something that you can get something back from. So, you know, I'm not surprised that there are a lot of pensioners who, and campaign groups who want more out of the system. Well, you know, that's to some extent fair enough, but particularly, I think, in the southeast, but probably in the southeast isn't the only wealthy part of the country. There are a lot of pensioners who are fighting fit, charging about all over the place, and have plenty of money, and have absolutely no need for the winter fuel payment. But you won't see them donating that £200 or more if they're older to a charity or to a cause that can use it. What I think has a lot to do now, and I could be wrong, but I think there are a lot of pensioners out there who are still involved in subsidising their children on this idea that all the kids must get on the property ladder before they miss the boat. Well, once upon a time, when I were a lad, you didn't have to go straight from home into a house and have a car. What you did was you went into shared accommodation with friends and roughed it a little bit, in order to get gradually to a situation where you were perhaps earning a little bit more and you could graduate into some sort of property ownership. But no way did people just move out, get married and go into a house. And yet these days, as we become more and more as a society middle class, which I do not necessarily think is to our credit or benefit, it seems that little Johnny who leaves home must have everything. He must have his car, he must have mummy doing his washing every week, and he must be living at home and basically pouncing off his parents or his grandparents, even after they've massively subsidised his university education. Something else which I would argue about the necessity of. All this sort of stuff draws on, potentially, on pensioners' incomes. So it's hardly bloody surprising that even before, you know, you start talking about their income and all the rest of it, it's not surprising that they haven't got any money, because they're giving it all away to their kids. I think there needs to be a bigger element of tough love, because we are building a country of Nancy's, of boys who can't cope without money, of people who are not prepared to have the guts to live on their own 2 feet. And I think this is a time bomb. And I think younger people, adults, have to take responsibility. I mean, people living at home at the age of 30, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And there's no excuse for it, really, except that their parents agree that they shouldn't leave home until they can go straight onto the property ladder. You know, 4 or 5 people share a house, or 2 or 3 share a big flat. It's quite comfortable. You know, it doesn't have to be that little Johnny will be half starved because he hasn't got income from his parents. I think people have got to wake up a bit and realise that if people want to have the benefits of growing up, then they've got to pay the price of being grown up. And therefore allowing older people not to have to be concerned about funding their offspring for life, so that the older people can use their funds to fund themselves, so that fewer die of hypothermia in the winter, and have more of the older generation have enough money to cope with extra health needs and extra things they may need as they get older, and sometimes a little frailer. But the pension organisations will have you believe that every single pensioner on the planet is half-starved and on his last legs. Well, I mean, I live in an area where within 200 or 300 square yards there are a number of octogenarians and older who are charging about, fit as fleas, and walking about, keeping themselves very healthy to their credit. And I know not everyone is like that, but to older people who are having a few difficulties, I say to them, let the younger ones fend for themselves. They'll swim, they won't let themselves sink. But, you know, little Johnny doesn't have to have a car before he leaves home. He doesn't have to have a house before he leaves home. But for his own good, he has to bloody leave home. It's ridiculous. You know, how are a generation of people who've been at home till well into their 30s or even older going to be able to make decisions that affect the country possibly in the future, if they're tied to mummy's apron strings for so long? It's buggering up the economy because money that should be spent on older people is actually being spent on university tuition fees and things like that, because the parents think that they're doing little Johnny a favour. They've got to look after you. They've got to look after themselves. Little Johnny will find a way. It's part of growing up. I'm beginning to rant, so I think I better stop here. But in summary, I just say, look, give the youngsters a chance to fly the nest. It won't kill them, it will strengthen them. And make sure that you don't throw your money away on them when you need it for your own needs in old age. Controversial perhaps, but you know, that's life. Anyway, that'll do for now. Expect there's loads of you that don't agree with me. Contact me or write a reply to this, whatever you like. Yeah, property is expensive, but it's always been expensive. And those of us who were in massive negative equity in the 80s didn't go running home to mummy for an extra sub. We toughed it out. Sometimes you have to do it.